And so please, could you put your hands together for Debora Moretti, please?
Hello, everybody. Thank you, Brian. My paper is slightly different from what you will hear today. I am a field archaeologist and I am a witchcraft historian by trade. And I want to present to you the status of these type of studies and the application of these studies into field archaeology. It is a rather polemic paper, not towards you, but towards the archaeological world altogether. And this was presented originally in 2019 at the annual CIFA conference. For those of you who do not know, CIFA, which stands for Chartered Institute for Archaeologists, is, with Historic England, the main governing body for professional archaeologists. Professional archaeologists are those who every single day for their lives, for an average of 25 years career, dig and record archaeological features despite the weather. And they fall under the developer funding archaeology. Before delving into the main topic, I would like to introduce myself properly to let you understand that I feel I have the right to address this issue. I am an archaeologist by trade and a witchcraft historian, as I said. I studied archaeology in Florence and I was part of many type of research expeditions. And since 2004, I have been working in what is now known commercial archaeology in England. And I am currently Research and Excavation Project Manager at Archaeological Services WIAS, which stands for West Yorkshire Archaeology Service in West Yorkshire. From the very beginning of my archaeological career, my main fascination and focus has been in the understanding of the physical evidence of rituals and magical activities in archaeological contexts. And of course, coming from Italy, that's a given. Very early in my studies, I came across a seminal book which has inspired me and set the path of my career, making me fall in love with the idea that the beliefs and practices connected to magic and witchcraft were not only represented by words and actions, they were also represented by objects and material culture which have left material evidence which, when analyzed and studied correctly, can offer us important clues regarding not only magic and witchcraft beliefs, but also clues on wider past belief system. Let me see if I can. Oh, that's that, yeah. At the time, however, I strongly felt the limitations of this one discipline, archaeology, dealing with such a whole-encompassing and ubiquitous topic. Magic and witchcraft are extremely hard to categorize, as their perception changes from culture to culture, geographical location to geographical location, and of course from historic period to historic period. Therefore, to overcome the limitations of approaching them from only an archaeological point of view, I decided to expand my horizons, studying them from an historical and ethnographical point of view. And for this reason, I undertook a PhD program at the University of Bristol under the supervision of Professor Ronald Hutton, he'll kill me for that, for his project, The Figure of the Witch, which was funded by the Leverhulme Trust. And I also had the fortune to apply my research in the Archive of the Folk Traditions of Tuscany and also the Archive of the Inquisition of Rome. So I brought together archaeology, history, and ethnography in order to understand better witchcraft and magic. To better understand the perception of magic and witchcraft throughout time, I have become a sort of multidisciplinary researcher and almost an in-betweener with a micro approach to a macro phenomenon across space and time. And this has, I believe, allowed me to understand better the limitations of the archaeological approach to the study of magic and witchcraft traditions. Of course, I was not the first one to follow this path, as the study of magic and witchcraft in archaeological contexts implementing the cognitive processual archaeological approach has developed swiftly, I would say, but not without methodological issues since the late 1980s. And it has evolved together with the general interest in the materiality of magic and witchcraft, which belongs to a wider and more recent material cultural turn. The scholar who stands out preeminently in Britain for the first and most complete contribution to the development of the archaeological study of magic and witchcraft is, of course, Ralph Merrifield. And his book is a survey of material objects indicating the existence of ritualistic and magical behavior. The materials studied by him belonged to a Roman and Anglo-Saxon pagan context, and also to medieval and early modern Christian contexts. For the first time, a pattern of continuity in ritual depositions from pagan and Christian contexts alike was identified, which, if not indicating or even implying a continuity in the same beliefs, it shows similarity in the modality of certain ritual practices throughout time. The main point of Merrifield's work is perfectly explained in his own words. All who have an interest in that wide field of human thought, aspiration and fears covered by such terms as religion, magic, and the more derogatory superstition will be fully aware that it has produced immense activity that must have left almost as many traces in the archaeological record as any of the basic human activities that are concerned with satisfying hunger, constructing shelter, or providing defense against enemies. Furthermore, his work, and this is the main part of me referring to him, has underlined and brought attention to two major issues: the stubborn reluctance hidden behind methodological and interpretative defensive barricades of archaeologists and historians to engage with material evidence implying magical activities in medieval and early modern contexts, and the general lack of understanding and the misinterpretation of possible deposits indicating magical activity in archaeological contexts. The issues underlined by Merrifield were consistently and repeatedly addressed in following years, as, for example, by Brian, who I still remember reading his article many years ago. In 1999, he opened up his article, The Archaeology of Folk Magic, by saying, "In this article, I hope to draw the reader's attention to a little-known field of study known as the archaeology of folk magic." Of course, I do not have to tell you of his work, because I guess we are all here because of his work. But what I would like to say or highlight is the fact that he highlighted the very little interest of archaeologists and historians due lack of understanding at the time, but this is still carry on so many years down the line. The same pattern of either lack of understanding or maybe a lack of interest was also picked up by Roberta Jill Christ in an article entitled Magic for the Dead, The Archaeology of Magic in Later Medieval Burials, where she pinpoints the core of the issue when she states, "It may be that archaeologists studying the Middle Ages have found the juxtaposition of magic and Christianity difficult to interrogate, based on the false assumption that these are mutually exclusive categories comprising marginal superstition on the one hand versus formalized religion on the other." More recently, this issue on the limitation and the interest of certain specialists were widely discussed by British and non-British archaeologists at the 34th Annual Conference of the Theoretical Archaeology Group, TAG, held in Liverpool in 2012, during the session entitled The Materiality of Magic, an artifactual investigation into ritual practices and popular beliefs. The papers presented during this session were gathered in an edited volume published in 2015. The papers in the volume provided a wide range of cross-cultural cases demonstrating the importance of the study of material manifestation of magic in the understanding of past and present cultures. The papers, more importantly, draw attention to the methodological issues and difficulties in identifying with certainty the nature of structured deposits, ritual middens, and ritual deposits in a pre-literary context where multidisciplinary cross-referencing with folklore and written text are not possible. Ronald Hutton's edited volume entitled Physical Evidence for Ritual Acts, Sorcery and Witchcraft in Christian Britain, published in 2016, addresses the issues thoroughly, confirming that the longevity of the reluctance of archaeologists and historians to approach material evidence of magic, especially in Christian context, is still quite present. Although more recently, there is almost a welcome change in the attitude towards this type of research. And there is more interest, especially from the public, and this was reason on the back of the widespread academic interest in the history of magic and witchcraft in medieval and early modern Europe. Magic is, of course, a perennial, fascinating subject, and as such, it holds the imagination of the wider public. Fortunately, in recent time, this fascination has, let's say, percolated down to academic experts, but also social media. An example of this is the success of the, I don't know if you saw it advertised, the exhibition held at the Ashmolean Museum in late 2018 entitled Spellbound. This had a conference, an international conference, which kick-started the exhibition, and during the conference, a really lively debate between archaeologists and historians happened based on the methodological approach to the study of this topic. The main issue I identified during the conference was that despite the increased interest at theoretical and academic level in physical evidence of magic and witchcraft beliefs, at practical level, during the actual archaeological excavation or incidental discovery of these objects, neglect and misinterpretation is still standard routine. In the majority of the cases, it is almost impossible to convince archaeologists working on a really tight budget and a really tight time schedule during an excavation to understand that a rolled-up piece of lead in a posthole or a ditch is not just a random piece of lead. That has a meaning. There is a purpose for that deposition. And it's almost impossible to convince contractors that are pulling down buildings, even if they're not listed buildings, that a hidden shoe or a hidden cut mummy or any, for example, horse skulls under the floorboards, they are not just random finds. It's really difficult to convince them that they have to take the time to look, assess, and record accordingly. And this is the status of the sector at the moment. I feel that until the study of the material evidence of magic and witchcraft reaches mainstream archaeology, and until our, let's say, mental approach to this changes, there will always be difficulties to translate this to the actual field work. And considering that the high percentage of archaeological data is coming from development-based excavations into academic research, it is worrying to know that there are huge gaps in knowledge and data processing regarding apotropaic material culture and magic traditions. Now, I'm not having a dig at my colleagues Not at all. I'm just saying that when they leave university, they are not prepared enough to assess in the field what they are looking at. So, after the heated debate at the Spellbound conference in September 2018, I have decided to check things myself because I am an archaeologist, I work in an archaeological company, I have archaeological teams working with me. So I have approached my colleagues and I have asked them a set of questions. Do you think medieval, early modern apotropaic magic material culture is worth recording in a commercial-based excavation? Would you be able to identify in the field any of the objects belonging to the main categories of what we consider medieval and early modern apotropaic / magic material culture? And most importantly, because remember that commercial archaeology is based on money. So it's all about money and time. So how would including apotropaic / magic material evidence in the routine of commercial archaeology methodology impact on time schedule and budgets? The responses followed a standard pattern. So I have spoken to field archaeologists and managers. I am a manager myself, so I know how it works. I know how to cost an archaeological job. Everybody I spoke to agreed on the fascination and interest of the topic. And of course, everybody would love to be able to identify these type of objects. Everybody agreed that apotropaic material culture is worth recording. However, and this is the main point, everybody agreed that not only they would not be able to identify these type of objects, but also it would make their job more difficult because of time and because there is no methodology existing to take care of these type of objects. The responses given to me follow a very logical and financially focused modus operandi, which, as a commercial archaeologist myself, I understand and I appreciate. We must be competitive at all the time, because if I don't win a job, another archaeological company will win the job. So we must be competitive. We must strictly follow the methodologies and guidelines given to us by our governing bodies, like CIFA, like Historic England, like FAME, guidelines that have no space for this. We have to make everybody happy. We have to make the client happy. We have to make the local county archaeologists happy. We have to make the curators happy, the museum happy. Everybody has to be happy. So in order for us to squeeze this, there is a lot of pushing back, which at the moment we are not able to do. And we are not able to do this because at the moment everybody sees us as just diggers. Our governing body have prepared no methodology for us to follow to take care of this very important topic. I'm sorry, I'm really feeling this passionately because we have to make space for this, because if you know of this, I'm pretty sure you all know of the status of archaeological research in the academic world in this country. It's slowly but surely disappearing. So field archaeologists like myself are the last bastion to save what's your heritage. So I feel that we are not just diggers. We are, as I said, to a certain extent, and especially now, the keepers of our heritage because we preserve by record. We are literally, physically standing in front of the machines, and that happened only 3 weeks ago where me and my shovel proudly stood in front of a 360 excavator arguing with the machine driver, and yet we are not being given enough credit, not from the academic world, not from our governing body. So I say that we need to be able to perform our role within our own job specification and to be able to inspire the wider public to understand and embrace their own cultural and historical heritage, represented in this case by objects indicating past spiritual belief system. For this reason, I presented this exact paper to the CIFA conference in 2019. I had no feedback whatsoever from the Chartered Institute for Archaeologists, my governing body, and that really bothered me, hence me being here presenting the same paper to you, because I would love to have your feedback instead, because you are the wider public, you are the people interested in heritage, and this is definitely part of your heritage. So, because the whole point is, if we, field archaeologists, the ones with the shovels, doing this every day, are no longer inspired in understanding important aspects of our own past and culture, and if we are not fully supported by our governing body, then how can we inspire you, the wider public, and future generations, I say? So, just to conclude, because otherwise I'll go on and on and on, I personally believe, it is time to bring a little magic and spark back into commercial archaeology, because ultimately, commercial archaeology, it's here, it matters, and is trying to save what is slowly disappearing. So please do send me some feedback, tell me what you think, and thank you very much. Sorry for the rant.